Oh man, man. Oh man. Y'all had me stay up late for this one, man. I'm telling you, that was a thriller. You guys already know, man. I had Canelo. I'm not gonna lie. I had Canelo before the fight because of all the things that I was discussing as the fight went on. And to be honest, in the beginning it was 50-50. Maybe like 2, 3 weeks ago, 2 months ago. 50-50. I'm like, okay, good little guy, great big guy. Both of them great, should I say. And I thought that Crawford would have to move around and run from this fight throughout this fight. And the fact that he came in and did what he did. Before I even get into the play by play, though, I want to just say, welcome to the first episode of Akoye Knows Boxing live. Right? I couldn't have started on a better day in a better way. This was like one of the greatest fights I've seen, and not because of the action, but because of what was done and who was done to, and by whom it was done. Right? That is something I can't erase. Like Terence Crawford became a legend tonight. But leading up to this fight, I thought it was 50-50 due to the fact that I just say, hey, he's a great little guy, small guy. I think he had more skills offensively, and he showed that tonight. But I thought that the things that Canelo would have to do to win the fight would be, start off early with the body shots, which he did, and hopefully slow Terence Crawford down in the later rounds and have him stand right in front of him, which he did. And that's why that fight was amazing to me, because the reason I picked Canelo was because I thought that it would go the way it went, meaning Canelo would start off with body shots early and he would slow down Terence Crawford and try to rough him up late. And he did those things. The fact that Terence Crawford fought a style and fought his own style, which I thought would play against him, meaning he likes to exchange, he likes to get right up in your face and throw punches. I thought if he did that against Canelo, whether you're southpaw or not, it's not going to work, because when Canelo lands those heavier shots, it's a little different. And when you watch the Madrimov fight, I thought Madrimov actually did better against Crawford than Canelo did, right? So I thought it would go different due to the fact that Crawford was going to come out here and try to show everybody, hey, I can knock this guy out. And I thought that would be a mistake. It was not. So hats go off. Y'all got a hat, take it off. But give your respect to Terence Crawford for what he just pulled off tonight, because that's a feat that you won't see in boxing, I don't think, ever again. I mean, you had guys jump up and wait, like Sugar Ray Leonard versus I think his name was Londa or Londi. I forgot the guy's name, but he jumped up to light heavyweight and knocked this guy out. But he wasn't the caliber of a Canelo Alvarez. So for Terence Crawford to go up and wait, never really fighting a great fighter. He fought a bunch of good guys, but never fought a guy that I would say was great, because even the Errol Spence fight, I thought he had that in the bag years before it happened. You guys can see the breakdowns on my Akoye Media channel. Those of you who are over at Akoye Media, make sure you follow Kretschman Media as well, because this is where Akoye Knows Boxing will be. So make sure you follow this channel. The reason I'm going live on both channels right now is so that you guys can bleed over and start to follow this channel as well. But just understand, like, the things that I saw tonight, I'm going to break down round by round what happened and why it happened. And I'm shocked, man. I'm not even holding you. I'm really shocked right now, man. Because I just didn't think it was going to go that way. I thought it would be an exciting fight, which it was. I had it 7-5 Crawford. I think Crawford turned it up in like round 9. He just started going off. But what shocked me was the fact that he was able to stand still right in front of Canelo and throw pity pat shots, just showing like he was comfortable. He was comfortable. He was comfortable. Uh, he said, put the link in the description. I shall. Hold on one second. Um, Hold on. I'll get the link for you. I'll have the producer throw the link in there for you. But we'll add that, and I'll keep adding as I get moderators on this channel. We'll have them do that as well. Let me give some shout outs to everybody that I do recognize. Ty Church, what's up, man? Damn, y'all in here, man. Y'all showing some love in here too. Get right or get left. I like that name, man. Shout out to you. What's up? Terrence Bosley, what's good? Ghost, what's good? Christopher, Bryce Lynch, Anthony Carrier, Marcus Montgomery. How y'all doing, man? He said Bud took belt to ass. Some young boy just said that to me after he beat my ass in Madden, man. He was at my house for my daughter's party with my ass in Madden. He said, I'm putting belt to ass. I felt disrespected. Hurt my feelings. We know this is your sport. Yeah, it's definitely my sport, but shit, I definitely was wrong tonight. I lost like $150 a night. I thought Terence Crawford was gonna be like a late round stoppage or a split decision loss. I only had Canelo winning 3 rounds. Crawford dominated. I had Canelo win 5. I thought that they were competitive. Like when you look at the beginning of the fight, I thought the first round was close enough. And you guys got to realize, like, when you're watching as a fan, and I'm not trying to take anything away from any of the fans. Like I don't like when people talk as elitist when it comes to anything or any sport, because you guys have a mind just like anybody else, right? But when you're watching a guy that you like, when you're a fan of a certain guy, there's confirmation bias, even from me, because when I'm watching my guy, I only see the damage that he's doing to the other guy. I'm not really watching what the other guy's doing to my guy, right? So I watched in the first round. I thought that Canelo came out and was landing good body shots. Crawford didn't really land anything substantial in the first round, but Canelo did. But it was to the body, and people don't give those punches enough credit, in my opinion. But I watched the reactions of Terence Crawford when he was hit to the body, and I thought that Canelo did a good job in the first round. I think the second and the third round Crawford took, and that's how I was scoring it. So by round 4, it was 3-1, 3-1 Crawford at the end of round 4, in my opinion. Um, and then I think round 5, Canelo took that round. So I had it 3-2, and then we went from there. But when you break down what Crawford did in those early rounds, I thought that he did what we thought he would do, like early on, moving around, using the ring, taking angles. I think that coming out as a southpaw initially, he did that in his last 2 fights. In his biggest fights, he didn't play around as a conventional fighter at all. And that's because when you watch Terence Crawford, I don't know why he hasn't fought as a true southpaw for most of his career, because when you watch him, historically, I've broken him down in the past, right? Where I broke down his fight against Kell Brook. Kell Brook, although that fight ended pretty fast, Terence Crawford started that fight off as a conventional fighter, and Kell Brook was beating him to the punch all day in the first round. He was whooping his ass, right? Terence Crawford switched to southpaw and knocked him out immediately in the second round. So Terence Crawford knows that his best style is southpaw. When you watched him versus Errol Spence, he came out initially as a southpaw. He didn't play around, and he did the same thing with Canelo because he needed that angle advantage. Because Canelo, I think, if he would have fought in spurts as a conventional fighter, those rounds would have been closer and easier for Canelo to deal with because he wouldn't have had the angle advantage. So hat goes off to him. That's not an excuse at all. That's just good strategy on Terence Crawford's part to know that I can't come out here and fight my true style. I can't fight conventional against this guy. I need the angle advantage. I need every advantage I can get. And to be quite honest, he deserves that because the reason I give Terence Crawford, the utmost respect and credit for this fight is because of what he did before the fight. It had nothing to do with the fight. I give him respect for asking for the fight. That's one. Asking for the fight and not bitching and excuse my French. I don't want to curse on this show, but asking for the fight and not complaining about catch weights, about rehydration clauses, any of that stuff. He wanted to fight the man as his true self. And that's why the precedence that he just set and what Turkey Al Sheikh has said as well with Riyadh season, the precedent that they're setting is like you're going to get the utmost energy and the best fights out there because they're fighting with honor. Like that's honor. Like a lot of fighters don't care about honor; they care about what they can put on the contract. And Terence Crawford could have done that and could have gotten some sort of leeway with that. But I think the reason Canelo takes this fight is because Terence Crawford said, "Hey, listen, I'm not trying to take anything from you. I want to fight you as yourself, as your true self." And I'm pretty sure when that fax or that email came across, Canelo likely was laughing like, "You're gonna fight me without, any clauses whatsoever." And that's respectable, man. I can't take anything away from him for that, man. That was amazing work what I saw, man. What's up, Agent Nine? Give some more people some shout outs. Um, Donnie Lalonda. Yep, that was his name. That was the guy Sugar Ray Leonard knocked out. Bud might be better than Floyd. I don't think it's a might involved in that. I think Bud, being as though Bud can switch hit, Bud has extremely long arms, great going forwards, backwards. He can fight any way you want. He's a great counter puncher. He can fight in the Philly shell if he wants to. But the difference maker, I would say they're similar, but the difference maker is Bud has multiple styles. I think he upped his defense recently because he had great defense tonight, and his punching power has carried. So Bud is definitely, in my opinion, a stronger puncher than Floyd Mayweather. I think if Floyd ever got into a fight with Bud Crawford, Bud would give him a run for his money. And I think Bud wins that fight. To be honest, I'm just gonna say that just for the fact that when I watched, I'm not gonna get into Floyd Mayweather yet because y'all gonna take me off topic. We'll get into that. Sneed said Akoye late night boxing session. Um, Let's see. Derek B, best football and boxing mind combination in this space. I appreciate that, man. Keenan said, yeah, Bud 9-3. I'm not going to argue anybody that had it 9-3. I just didn't see that because I think the early rounds, if you're paying attention, Bud wasn't really opening up in the early rounds. He would just, they both were pot shot, and it just goes to who you thought did more damage or who you thought, well, you got to understand this too, who you thought applied the most pressure. Pressure is different than you guys think. So some judges score off of ring generalship and pressure. That means who is dictating the pace of the fight and who's controlling the pace of the fight. Now, early in the fight, it was Canelo. He was forcing Bud to fight off his back foot, moving backwards, and Bud was trying to find space. So I could give him some of those rounds due to the fact that even though you might have seen Bud teeing off a little bit while Canelo was pressuring, Canelo didn't feel like he was in any trouble. He's pressuring to try to create some attrition in Bud later on in the later rounds. That's normal for pressure fighters. They get in front of you and they let you throw a lot of punches so that even though they're not doing much, so that you tire yourself out. Like when you watch Gervonta Davis fight, he did that to Rolly Romero. He did that to Ryan Garcia. He did it to who else? Frank Martin. That's how he fights. In the beginning of the fight, he's losing rounds. Floyd even did it a lot as well, but he's losing rounds in the beginning of the fight. And then, once he sees that your energy level drops a little bit, then he turns up. The difference is in this fight, yes, Bud did run a little bit in the first 5 rounds. He threw some good shots, but I think Canelo was hitting him with some stuff. I think Canelo actually hurt him in the 5th round, I believe, at the end of the round where Bud got caught and he stood still. Fighters, I pay attention very well to fighters' behavior. Your normal behavior pattern, if it shifts, I see it because I have to. I have to tell my fighter, hey, he's hurt. When he caught Bud at the end of that round, now Bud is a different kind of animal. He's a guy that got shot in the head and drove himself to the hospital, right? So he's the type that if you hurt him, you better kill him, right? So at the end of the 5th round, I think it was the 4th or 5th round, Bud got hurt. He was hurt. He stood still for maybe 10 seconds, maybe 5 seconds. It seemed like 10. But he stood still and smiled, but he didn't want to walk after that right hand that Canelo landed. And the reason he didn't want to walk is because he didn't want to wobble, didn't want to give it away that he might have been stunned, but he was smiling and he nodded his head. Yes, Bud is very honest with his body language. If you're not hurting him, shakes his head no. I think Matt Kellerman pointed that out. If you do hurt him, he'll tell you hurt him. Oh, he said good shot, right? But Bud was hurt at the end of the 5th. And he was because every time in Bud's career that you've seen him hurt, whether it be against like Hank Lundy, any of the guys that hit him, or when he's fighting, what was the guy's name? Cuban guy he fought. What's the guy? He had a crazy name. What's his name? You guys know who I'm talking about though. But Gamboa, Yuriokis Gamboa. When he fought Gamboa was hurting him. But when you hurt Bud's coming to kill you. Like he turns into a dragon immediately. So when Canelo hurt him at the end of the 5th, Bud came out in the 6th round and just started teeing off. He went off early in the round. I thought that would tire him out. I said, if you don't hurt Canelo and you're throwing the sink at him, you're going to get even more tired in the later round. So I thought that worked in Canelo's favor, even though Bud came back out in the 6th and I think won that round emphatically. The 7th and the 8th, you can give it to whoever you want. But once we got into the championship rounds, Bud had a whole different gear that he went to. And that is what we saw against him and Sean Porter and beyond. So to me, to be able to carry your style up to a higher weight, 20 pounds, your senior, or maybe 14, but if you count him as a junior middleweight, I don't think he really was ever 154. He was 147. He started off at 35, went up to 40, went up to 47, and then boom, right? So for a guy to be able to carry that type of power and his style up and didn't have to really change other than the fact that he fought primarily southpaw in this fight, that is something that you have to respect in the game of boxing. That is not something that you'll see again very often, if you do see it at all. To even want to take that type of risk, you got guys that don't even want to fight each other because they don't want to lose their O. They don't want to look bad. I take my hat after both him and Canelo because it's risky for Bud to even ask for the fight, and it's risky for Canelo to take the fight because if you lose to Bud, you just lost to a little guy, right? And that could possibly make you look bad. Canelo took the fight anyway. So I give him his respect as well. And the way he fought, because he was taking some punishment and just kept coming forward, kept doing what he needed to do. But Canelo's footwork in the end was his Achilles. It's a lot of you kind of pouring in here. So before I get on with the rest of the fight, what we can do is my producer, he's gonna jump on, he's gonna ask, and we're gonna have a conversation as well. But what I'm gonna do now is go through your comments and say what's up to everybody that's in here. Remember, I don't got my glasses on, so if I'm squinting, it's because I can't see. It's not because I can't read. um, uh, what's it? Kamik Ozzy, salute Akoye. I can't say I'm surprised, but I'm surprised how great Bud looked at 168. Credit to him. He's on an all-time great. I mean, he's an all-time great. No more debating it. Yeah, you can't debate that. I can't debate it anymore either. Justin D said Canelo had his moments, but Bud clearly outboxed him. 100% you knew who won that fight at the end of the fight. Eddie, what's up, Eddie? Alizar, man. He said, yo, Darius, what's up? I know you're going to call me by my government. Eddie go back, man, like, what, 10 years now, man? You've been watching my content for 10 years, man. Almost 10. I think I've been doing this for 9 years, maybe. I don't know. But since I've been here, Eddie been here, man. What's up, man? Yes, Jess Davis. He says, over. Crawford beat Alvarez. We waited. It is what it is. Yep. Unbiased cowboy. Who you got, Akoye? Your boy Boots or Crawford? Shit. After that one, man, that would be a major fight. I just want to see it. That's another 50-50 fight. I really don't know. But Crawford has earned all the respect in the world from me. But the difference is he doesn't have an advantage against Boots. When you have two southpaws, you have a guy that can switch to southpaw. The way I teach people to fight southpaws, you either fight as a southpaw when you're a conventional fighter, meaning fight the opposite. Instead, conventional fighters slip going to their right usually. I tell them slip going to your left, number one. Everything slip left because they only get one punch. If a southpaw throws his right hand and you're slipping to your left, he can't follow up with that left hand because he has to lift that left foot up, and that takes the power off of it. So very few fighters could do that. Manny Pacquiao could, which made him amazing, and so can Lomachenko, but very few southpaws can do that. And most southpaws can't really box as a true boxer, meaning they don't have to learn how to catch punches because they don't usually deal with a guy who can jab them as a southpaw because they're fighting conventional fighters their whole career, right? So usually when you see a good southpaw, I can't really tell how good they are until they fight another southpaw. Like Errol Spence. I knew Errol Spence was in for it, and everybody thought Errol Spence was the greatest thing since sliced bread. But I said, okay, when I watched Kell Brook fight Errol Spence, I was watching the right hands that Kell Brook could land as a conventional fighter, doing the things I just told you, fighting like a southpaw, doing everything in reverse, slipping to your left, walking to your right instead of circling to your left as a conventional fighter. If you fight a southpaw that way, you can confuse them. Or if you can just fight as a southpaw like Bud can, right? That's why Spence really didn't have the advantage he thought he has, because Spence fights like a Mexican, which is pressure fighting coming forward, which is dangerous when you're fighting conventional fighters. When you're fighting another southpaw, if he has a good jab and he's used to pressure, you really ain't that special, right? So I say all that to say the angle advantage that Bud goes to when he switches to southpaw, it doesn't matter what style he fights in. If he fights conventional, Boots can go there with you, and he has multiple styles within his conventional style as well. If he fights southpaw, Boots can go there with you and box you there. So there is no advantage for you, and you're not bigger, stronger, or anything. So I think that would be a great fight. I'm not going to say Boots wins it because he's young. He does some immature things. He needs some of those bigger fights to kind of work that stuff out of his system. But just skill on skill, Just straight talent on talent, I think there's a 50-50 fight that I would want to see, especially now because they have a little bit of a narrative to add to it because Boots actually helped Canelo in this camp. So that's a reason. That's even added incentive for Bud to fight a Boots. Plus, Turkey Alakash is going to throw so much money at that fight. Why not go get that money now? If you already were considering retiring, if you're Crawford, go get that money. Go get that money before you leave, or ride off into the sunset as the undisputed, you know what I mean? And just, roll out. He could do that. He's earned the right to do whatever he wants to do at this point. I don't know that man's pockets, but I would want to see him fight Boots before he retires, personally speaking. He said 115, 113, no way. Okay. Um, Moving up two weight classes and performing like that is incredible. Yeah, it is. Justin D said that. CEO Sports. Shout out to my guy Akoye for his debut episode. You can find the link for the new page on my homepage. Yes, sir. Axel Foley. I like that name. He said, add a head to Mount Rushmore. Oh, yeah. Crawford can do what he wants when it comes to the boxing game right now, man. He took, and he knew this, though, because Errol Spence was, we thought he was an asterisk because of the car accident. Everybody thinks that. Nobody says it, but everybody kind of thought that Errol Spence was not himself. I happen to think that he would have lost even if he was himself. So I didn't take anything away from Crawford for that fight, but I knew the fans would, right? Crawford knew that too. So for him to go up and fight Canelo, the reason I would see him doing something like that is because all of the opponents that he's had, and he has 41 fights, but all of his opponents have been, and that's because of the way Top Rank moves their fighters. That's just the way they do. They protect their fighters, right? And so that's not his fault. But Top Rank and PBC were in a cold war for so long that Terence Crawford didn't get to fight a lot of the guys that were on PBC because, Bob Arum wasn't going to deal with Al Heyman. He's just not going to do it, right? Now they might because Turkey Alakash is, Al-Sheikh, has, control over everybody because he has unlimited purse string. But Bud needed a fight of this magnitude to make up for the lack of greatness in his opponents. He did that in one fight. So that's why, to me, the risk and the way he went about this fight, and the fact that we knew probably by round 9 where this fight was going, was crazy to me. I thought Canelo maybe lands something that changes it. He started throwing those Gennady Golovkin overhand rights at the top of his head and was hitting him with it. And Crawford was just standing right there taking it. So for him to do that in the late rounds and still be smiling and sticking his tongue out and playing with a guy who we haven't seen nobody play with is amazing. That was amazing. That was amazing, man. Shout out to Spence. Spence, my man. Spence taught me how to park, man. That's like, my old, well, he my age, but he like an OG. He like an old head, man. I remember he wouldn't put no lotion. You still walk around with no lotion on your hand? He said men don't wear lotion. He's had cracked up ass hands. His hands look like ham hocks and shit. Because he used to work on cars and all that. But my main man never wore no lotion on his hand. Like, Spencer's a crazy boy, man. That's my man, though. He said Bud fought a great fight. Southpaw all night. He never switched. Yeah, that was smart, man. Nicholas D. Well, he said, I want him to fight Boots. I do too. If you were Bud's managers, wouldn't you fight Canelo again? Easy, big money. If I don't, you heard Canelo's answer. Canelo knows he's not stupid. Like, why would he want to fight Crawford again? He knows he can't do anything with Crawford. The footwork itself, Canelo needs you to sit still and actually fight him, right? Well, Crawford did that. If you're watching that fight and you say, hey, there's certain things I could have done differently. Like, it's not like Sugar Ray Leonard versus Duran, right? Roberto Duran. Sorry about that. But Sugar Ray Leonard, Duran won, right? Sugar Ray Leonard came out and tried to fight Duran toe to toe. Duran needed that because his footwork, he wasn't going to catch Leonard, right? But he started talking about his wife. He got him angry and he made him fight toe to toe. I saw that happening with the way the fan, because Bud does that in every fight, but I saw that happening in this fight. And I said, if Bud does that, it's going to go the way Duran Leonard went. That's how I looked at this fight, because I looked at Canelo as a guy that can't keep up with Bud's footwork. But if he makes him fight him, he's going to win this fight if he stands right in front of him and fights. That's what I thought, because that's what happens usually when a good big man fights a good little guy. If you stand still and you exchange with that guy, you're going to die, right? Sugar Ray Leonard versus Marvin Hagler, same thing, right? But Sugar Ray did it as well, but he was stealing rounds. He had a strategy that helped him. He played the clock instead of played the man. I'm not going to hurt him. I'm not going to knock him out. Hagler's going to walk through everything I do. But at the end of every round, in the last 30 seconds, I'm going to tee off on him so bad that I'm going to steal rounds from him if I can keep it close. So that's what Leonard's strategy was. That was not Bud Crawford's strategy, right? But Crawford stood right in front of him. So I thought that if he did that, it would go that route. And the fact that it didn't, there's really nowhere else you can go, because if you go, fight him again, you're not going to learn. He's not going to learn new tricks at this stage in the game. Canelo doesn't have great footwork. He never has had great footwork. When you watch the Lara fight, Erislandy Lara, when you watch that's the southpaw that was slick, who can move. Um, Austin Trout hit that fight as well. That was a fight that was a little difficult for him. So when you watch those fights, you watch him against slick guys. Canelo's not a mover. He's not gonna move. So I wouldn't fight Bud again if I'm Canelo, because there's nothing else you're gonna do differently. And it's not like you didn't get the best opportunity, right, to beat him. You got the guy to fight based off of the way the fans were talking. Bud came out trying to fight Canelo's fighting him toe to toe. And Bud has done that throughout his career. When you talk to Bud, because this is what I would tell a fighter if they're going to fight Bud. When you talk to Bud before a fight, if you tell Bud, hey, you can't stop a jab, Bud going to come out and try to stop a jab. If you say, hey, I'm going to knock you out, Bud going to come knock you out, right? So whatever you say to him, he will fight the way you tell him to fight, which is what makes him amazing. He's like Ryu from Street Fighter. Like, he's just going to come, or Goku or some shit. He's going to come fight you the way you say he can't fight you. He'll fight you that way every time. He fought Hank Lundy. Hank Lundy's from Philly. Hank Lundy thought he wasn't tough. He was talking a lot of trash to him, because he country. He ain't think he was tough. And he came out there and he fought him toe to toe too. So Bud will fight you the way you want him to fight you. Like how you want it, he gonna give it to you that way. So I don't see it being a wise decision for Canelo to even try Bud again, man. David Jenkins, what's up? He said Akoye had a cuz who was a boxer who's just retired named Little Larry Pryor. He lived out in Denver, Colorado. Not sure if you heard of him. He's 44 years old. Nope, haven't heard of him. But to be quite honest, I don't watch a lot of fighters anyway today. Like if you ask me, who most guys are, I probably don't know. I know my fighters and I know football because that's all I get time to watch. But when I see good fighters, I pay attention. I pay attention to all the good ones, right? Because I don't see that much of it anymore. You said Canelo got worked. He's washed. No, styles make fights, bro. Canelo looks bad against anybody that can move. That's just the way he's always looked. I mean, Bivol got him the same way. I don't think Canelo's washed at all. I think he's a pressure fighter whose pressure is good enough to destroy most guys. The fight that Canelo put on tonight, I thought that he threw too many singles, right? Meaning he was settling for one shot too often. However, although he was settling for one shot too often, Canelo usually can get away with that because he hits pretty hard, right? But the reason he was settling for one shot is because every time he threw something that was meaningful, Bud countered or came back with something that made him pay for it. So you would see exchanges where Canelo will land a great shot and then Bud will hit him with 2 or 3, or at least just miss with 2 or 3, that makes Canelo second guess. And I knew probably in round 7 when Canelo would get him cornered, he had him on the ropes, and Bud just stood there. Canelo just fainted at him, but didn't do anything like 3, 4 times. I said, oh, Canelo's gun shy. And it's not gun shy because he's scared. It's just he respects the fact that he knows once I open up, Bud is going to interrupt my pattern with something. And I teach fighters to do that too. But Bud interrupted his combinations almost every time. He would let him engage, and then Bud would start his combination mid Canelo's combination. So Canelo really couldn't get off more than 1 or 2 shots anyway. So there is no style that I can see Canelo jump into because he fought his fight and lost. And Canelo knows that he fought the right fight. Canelo fought the fight that you would tell a guy to fight. Bud fought the wrong fight. This is, you might think I'm tripping when I say this. Nope. I mean, other than Bud, I wouldn't tell Bud to fight the fight that he fought. Meaning, don't stand toe to toe with Canelo and you win this fight. He did that. I would tell Canelo, come out early, throw body shots, slow the guy down and get him to stand toe to toe with you so you can win this fight. He did that. And when he did that, he still got the better of those exchanges. Crawford did. So where do you go? What other strategy do you tell him? You know, you tell him fight from the outside. He can't do that. Use better footwork. He ain't got none. He's an old dog. You ain't gonna teach him no new tricks. I just say stay away from him, man. Stay away from him. All right, let me see what else y'all saying up here. Uh he said, Akoye, you're talking boxing, so I'm going back to bed. Sadiqa, what's up? I don't know how you got it on. You got the alerts on where you Sadiqa gonna find me one way or the other, huh? I appreciate it. That's one of my moderators. She cool, man. Christopher, country black men are the baddest men on the planet. I'm a country black man, I guess. My whole family from the country, but I was raised in Philly, but we from Texas. So I guess you got a point. You got a point. We some tough ass people too, man. My cousin got shot twice in the head, in the back of the head, and then a month later he was jogging. I said, yeah, with no neurological damage, none of that. It took himself to the hospital like Bud too, and all. Well, matter of fact, two of my cousins got shot in the head, and they both living and fine. Like you would never think they got shot in the head. So I do think that we some tough SOBs. That's for damn sure. Country bumpkins, man, they tough. Kept him in the center of the ring and beat his ass. He damn sure did. That was Jemon Webb. Hold on, let me see what else y'all saying in here. Sneed said Canelo was like, man, I'm solidified. I got the bag and went all out. Peace. Yep. Canelo, he don't got nothing to feel bad about. You lost to a pound for pound great, and y'all was fighting for a pound for pound greatness. And I think Canelo, he saw who was better, and I think Bud deserves all the respect in the world. I wouldn't stay at 68 though, but he deserves all the respect in the world. He said, Eddie said, back in the day, bro, still listening to you. You the GOAT, bro. I appreciate that. I almost shed a tear, man. Spence said, Bud fought a great. Oh, I read that. Volta, Bud's win is bigger than Bivol and Mayweather's. Oh, yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. Canelo dang near gave up in the 11th round, pouting internally. Yeah, because he knew you already down, and the guy ain't slowing down in his footwork. Bud just dancing on you, man. So when you see a guy, I didn't think his legs would stay that fresh. But let me tell you why I picked Canelo, right? And this is what happened. And this is what I thought would help. Boots. I respect the hell out of Boots, right? And I watch him damage a lot of guys. When I watched him go into camp with Canelo, I said, well, even if he whoops Canelo's ass in camp, Canelo's not going to be surprised by what Crawford can offer. So he at least can be better prepared for. He knows I got to come in here better prepared for whatever Crawford's going to give me, right? So since that's the case, I was like, okay, well, it was a 50-50 fight before Boots entered the camp to me. Once Boots entered camp, I said, well, that kind of tilts it in Canelo's favor. So that's why I thought that Canelo would edge it out. That's number one. But two is like this, right? When you look at what Canelo is as a fighter and what Crawford is, I mean, I just looked at him as a guy who's smaller, moves around a lot, but wants to fight going forward, and usually is the stronger guy in the ring, right? I just didn't think that the strength that Crawford has would carry, right, up to 68. Although I knew the reason it was a 50-50 fight in the beginning, I knew that Crawford has a wrestling background. He's stronger than his size would create an assumption for, or would dictate or indicate. And I just felt like Crawford was, a guy that, people were going to look at as a smaller guy. But when you even watch this fight, Crawford wasn't much smaller, if he was smaller at all, because you never know what their walk around weights are. Like Roberto Duran used to walk around at 185 and fight at 47 and 35. Oscar De La Hoya did too. So, you got Hurd, was Jarrett Hurd, who walks around like 210, gets down to 154. You know what I'm saying? So, or 200 gets down to 154. So you got guys who just have an ability, to get down and weight. You know what I mean? Some like even David Benavidez used to be a big chubby kid. Now he's at 160. You know what I mean? So you got guys who can fluctuate in weight. So I looked at Bud and Canelo as far as their walk around weight is concerned. They may very well walk around at the same weight. I just thought that Bud being less muscular and less compact is just better at getting down in weight than Canelo is. But that doesn't mean they're naturally different in size. I thought Bud didn't have as much of a size disadvantage as people thought, which is why it was 50-50 until Boots came to camp. But he proved that didn't matter either. And even tonight, when you saw Canelo try to like wrestle him, other than the time he picked him up, whenever he tried to wrestle Bud, Bud just turned him and put his back against the rope. So he was showing him like my wrestling strength translates, man. So Bud's strong as hell because Canelo ain't weak. Like Canelo's strong to big guys. He goes up in weight too and fights light heavyweights and knocks them out. So for him to knock out Kovalev, knock out James Kirkland, he broke Billy Joe Saunders' face, knocked out did he knock out Plant? I think he knocked Plant out too. But he's just knocking guys out, man. Like Canelo will break your face. But so for him to fight a smaller guy and not be able to hurt Bud, that shows where Bud's chin really is. Who else? We said Alex Foley. He said if you were I read that. He said Crawford is 38. He's top 3 ever. Yeah, Crawford, an old man. Now I'm 42, so yeah, he old. He said, "Wait, we play at 12 tomorrow." Damn, he going to sleep. Outlaw comedian. He said, "I think Canelo was too focused on trying to damage the body, kind of made him a one-trick pony. He couldn't find anything but the body. When he was swinging at the head, Bud was gone." I think, yeah, I read that. Akoye, got you, fam. Spence, Canelo needs his opponent to cooperate. Yeah, he needs you to stand and fight him. He wants to fight. Isn't Canelo a counter fighter? Um, Yes and no. It depends. If you're a pressure fighter, like if you are the puncher, like Gennady Golovkin, yeah, he's a counter puncher now because he's the quicker guy, smaller guy. If Canelo's smaller than you, he's a counter puncher. If Canelo is, if your style indicates that he needs to pressure you, he's a pressure fighter. He fights like a Mexican. He's coming forward. That doesn't mean he's not countering though, but he sets up his counters like by tricking you. So that left hand to the body, I said, and he did it and it didn't work. That's why I say he did everything right. That left hand to the body that he was throwing, you can watch. When you guys rewatch the fight, watch the first round, and when you watch a fighter, right, if they get hit in the body, if you see their hands suddenly go down, not like immediately, they'll do it like a couple minutes later. They'll do a little shuffle, or they'll change the angle where now that same shot won't work. If they put their elbow down at their weight, you know that it hurt. And he did that to Crawford, and Crawford put his elbow immediately back, his jab hand. He went from being out in front to here, right? When I saw that, I said that body shot hurt, but it just didn't look like it because that's a boxing language, right? You can see it in body language, but you might not think so because obviously they don't grimace unless it's extremely painful because you don't want to give your opponent any motivation. But when he hit him with that body shot, I said, if he keeps doing that, so the reason he kept throwing those singles to the body is because that's a trick for fighting a southpaw. Because a southpaw brings his liver, because he's a southpaw, his liver is closer to you. So if you lead with a left hook to the body against a southpaw, you have a better chance of getting that liver shot in than you do against a conventional fighter who takes his liver away from you. Southpaw brings it straight to you. So instead of trying to start with a jab to the head and try to work your way into that left hand to the body, you just lead with it. So you come in, let's just imagine this is the guy's right hand. You come in and you check that right hand, which is the southpaw's lead hand, and you just shoot that left hook to the body right up under his arm over and over again because they'll slowly bring that down. When they start bringing it down, you feint it and you come up top with your left hook. Canelo did that, and it worked. Didn't hurt him at all. Crawford just kept shaking his head, no, like, no. I'm like, damn, that was crazy to me. When you look at that right hand, Canelo was stepping through. So some fighters just pivot with their right hand and they don't get distance on it because they're pivoting. Canelo was stepping through with his right hand. He was missing early, but I said if he lands any of those right hands that he's stepping straight through with, Crawford's in trouble. And he did land one at the end of the 5th round and he knocked the shit out of Crawford. Crawford didn't let him land too many of those, but he landed it and he still was there. So I saw Crawford take his best shots or some of his best shots and still was not the worst for wear. So I can't say that Canelo did anything wrong. And he did counterpunch in the fight, but he set up his counters by he has a progressive offense, so it looks like a counter, but it's really not. He sets you up because he's anticipating. So he might throw something that forces you to throw a punch, and then he's coming off of that. So I don't think he's a straight up traditional counter puncher like a James Toney or like a Floyd Mayweather. He's a guy that kind of knows the rhythm. So if he gets you in the rhythm, I jab you. I know I'm a half step back. You're gonna throw something off my jab, and I got you. He's that type of counter puncher, not a pure counter puncher. And bro wouldn't swing. That's not prime Canelo. He wouldn't swing because he didn't. I mean, you know why he wouldn't swing. He wouldn't swing because every time he swung, he got hurt. Duncan Dotson, you looking forward to the Abdullah Mason fight? Who's he fighting? I like Abdullah Mason though. He was a guy I used to work with Rick Ross, the real Rick Ross, not the rapper. But he was trying to sign Abdullah Mason and his brothers when they were like they just asked for it. They this is 2020. They wanted a van and just money to move around. So I'm glad that he's progressing. I've been following his career since then, but they just wanted a van and money to move around and get fights, man. That's all they wanted. But I evaluate fighters I used to evaluate fighters for Rick Ross and those guys. Until Boots knocked one of them out. Boots knocked one dude out and he retired. So I lost my job because I was in LA. I was supposed to be here with the guy. I told him don't go fight Boots. He went and sparred Boots, and Boots knocked him out in 2 rounds. He was like 7-0, and he retired after that. So I kind of got like, how somebody fire you by not calling you no more. That was it. They ain't tell me I was fired. They just ain't call my ass no more, but no more work. All right. Bud is the best since Tony. Since James Toney, I like James. James Toney, my favorite fighter. The versatility of your content makes you a GOAT. I appreciate that, Lewis. Master Freight Relocation 34. How do you stay away from 150 million, Akoye? Make it make sense to us po folks. 150 million. Who getting 150 million? To fight Canelo again? That's 150 million? Oh, no, I'll fight him again. I will fight again if it was 150 million. I didn't know they made that much. Did you give your thoughts on the game tomorrow? I will in a second. Them stairs, a motherfucker. Excuse me, MFer. They got Bud in shape. Yeah, for sure. Been here since before my collarbone. Oh, you remember that? Canelo thought his power would shut down Bud and he wouldn't want to smoke. He thought wrong. No need for Canelo to keep fighting, and he's ducking fights for what you had a great run. But it's looking like the end of an era. If it is, it is. But I think Canelo loves boxing. I think he understands things that the fans don't. He's immune to what the fans think because he's taking the risk that create compelling fights. You have to we got to get out of that anyway. I mean, and I'm not hating on you for saying it, Lewis, because I know why you're saying it because of the way boxing has been going. But the culture has to shift like now. And the reason I say that is because Floyd kind of broke the culture. It's like a fly in front of me. But Floyd broke the culture because he made everybody think they have to be undefeated in order to be anything, which made everybody not want to fight each other because they want to stay undefeated, right? That's not the wave. Manny Pacquiao would go out and fight guys. He'd lose. Who cares? Because we know he's going to give us a fight. I don't care if a fighter loses. Fight your fight. I want to see if your style can beat this guy's style. So I love what Turkey Al-Sheikh is doing because that's exactly what boxing needed. And when I throw fights here, it's the same way. It's like, no, man, I want to see compelling fights. I don't care for, guys who are padding their stats fighting guys that they know they can beat. Yes, matchmaking is important. Yes, you should protect your fighter to get him to a certain level, a certain pedigree. But when you do it to a point or to a fault where these guys are now icing each other out and you got 4 different belts and you got guys who can go an entire career and never fight the guy right next to him or the other lineal champ. They don't look to unify. That's BS to me in the sport. And the reason it's that way is because they're so scared that if they lose, everybody's gonna start watching. That's because everybody thinks that way. You can't think that way. You can't think that way. Fighters fight. And if you watch fighters in the gym, you watch them spar, you would know. Like they lose in sparring. Some of the greatest lose in sparring all the time. That's part of the game. You're gonna get rocked. But when you're so afraid to get rocked, not only are you not gonna get the best fighter, because he's going to come out gun shy because he's afraid that if I get caught by this lesser fighter, I'm done, I'm finished. But not only is he going to do that, you're not going to get the best of him, but he's not going to come out and fight the best people, our best fighters, because he knows that if he loses to certain guys, you guys will turn your back on him, right? I come from an era where Lennox Lewis, he lost to Oliver McCall. Oliver McCall came out crying, and he had Emmanuel Stewart, which is a legend. He's the trainer that I model myself after. But Emmanuel Stewart in his corner, and Emmanuel Stewart told Oliver McCall exactly what to do to beat Lennox Lewis, and he knocked him out, right? No, next fight, Lennox Lewis was with Emmanuel Stewart. Emmanuel Stewart Lennox Lewis knocked out Oliver McCall, right? It was McCall, right? I think his name was McCall. But he knocked him out. The very next fight, he fought him again, knocked him out. Same thing with Rockman. Rockman knocked Lennox Lewis right out. People turning back on him? No, because that was what boxing was. And he came back and knocked him out. You know what I'm saying? That's what makes boxing exciting. You gotta go at it like that. And you gotta tilt your hat to anybody who's willing to do that. Y'all ain't never been, a lot of people haven't been punched in the face. That's why they think that when you lose a fight, you've lost some sort of grace. You haven't. Why you think fighters become best friends after you saw Lennox and Rockman at this fight chilling with each other? But why you think fighters become good friends after they fight each other? Because they are learning each other at a whole different level than the fans who are watching. There's a whole different thing going on there because they know what it took for them to push themselves to the bell in those fights. So you got to give your respect to these fighters for even fighting in the first place and stop disrespecting them for losing, because to lose fighting your fight, there's no loss in that. My trainer, who's dead now, Sharav, used to say, the best you can do is the best you can do. And the best you can do is always good enough. Meaning, if you go out and you fight and you did your best, you know you did your best, and you lose, it's cool. Don't be mad at that. When you go out and you know you was bullshitting, oh, excuse my French. And when you go out and you know you were BSing and you weren't doing your best, that's the only time you should feel away. You know what I'm saying? Other than that, it don't matter. That's the way it worked, man. So I think that Canelo is fine. If he chooses to fight on, he deserves that right to do it. He's reserved that right to do it. So I don't have a problem with that. Is he past his prime? Of course he is. I mean, so is Bud Crawford. But did it matter an hour ago, 2 hours ago that he was past his prime? No. So he just now suddenly is worthless overnight because he lost. You know what I mean? Because the dopamine that we wanted from seeing him win is not evident at this point. Now he's worthless, right? You can't do that. Can't do that. And a lot of people do, but you got to stop. Does Canelo need a jab if power isn't working? Um, so I heard Max Kellerman saying this, and Max Kellerman is right but wrong, right? I understand just fundamentally, yes, you want to close distance by doubling up your jab or close distance with your jab. Canelo does have a jab. It's just he doesn't have any distance. He doesn't cover any ground with it because he doesn't have footwork. So if he's jabbing you, it's because you're standing right in front of him. Other than that, he's not jabbing because he can't travel with it, right? And if he does try to travel with a jab as a pressure fighter, that's when he's open to be countered coming in. But he wants to walk in. I fight the same way. I've been 180 since I was in high school, right? So even when I was boxing, I'm 5'9", 5'10". I'm always sparring guys. Even now when I spar guys that are like 6'4", 6'5". I can't jab them because I'm shorter. I have to come in behind my shield. I have to use a lot of head movement, and I have to make sure that when I'm coming forward, my hands are high. So it's harder for me to jab a guy that's taller than me. Now I can travel and jab him, but if he comes over the top of that with a right hand, I'm walking into his power. So pressure fighters that are shorter and compact usually jab a little bit less when they're fighting taller, longer fighters. That's just smart, because if you don't, you're probably gonna get caught coming in. So you usually see a lot of head movement because it makes the taller fighter hesitate on his jab because he doesn't want to get caught with an overhand right. When you watch Layman Brewster versus Vitaly Klitschko, right? Remember he caught him with that overhand right at the temple. That's why, because when you're jabbing at a shorter guy, you're punching down at a guy, and he ducks and throws that overhand over the top. That's a bad joint for you. You know what I'm saying? So you don't want to, as a shorter fighter, you don't want to jab a whole lot. And as a taller fighter, you also don't want to jab a whole lot when they're doing a lot of their head movement because you don't know when they're going to throw. So Canelo was trying to throw the timing of Crawford's jab off. That's number one. But number two, unless you have footwork, you can't jab a southpaw. Your hand is going to cancel out. Your left hand is going to cancel out their right hand. So you guys are going to keep pawing at each other's lead hand. and you're really just trying to get foot position either outside or inside so you can throw punches, right? So that's the other reason. If Canelo's not jabbing a conventional fighter very much, he damn sure ain't gonna jab at southpaw almost at all. Because a southpaw, that's why I don't give southpaws a lot of credit for defense, because they don't have to deal with the number one punch in boxing from a conventional fighter. They don't have to deal with a jab unless that conventional fighter knows how to fight, going to his right, or he's just special. But very few conventional fighters can land a jab. The best at it that I've seen recently is Andre Ward. Andre Ward versus Chad Dawson. I was like, Andre Ward hurt his right shoulder early in his career, so he didn't have a right hand. So for him to beat a southpaw is amazing, even though he's left-handed. But it's amazing because he's really beating you with his lead hand, which is what you should be able to cancel out, and that's the only hand he has. So that was that Andre Ward has my respect as well, due to the fact that he was beating people with his mind, with just straight skills. Calvin Jefferson said, Akoye, Canelo surprised by Buzz Power with his weight gain. Was he surprised? I think it was the sharpness. So sharpness, I don't think he hurt him at all. I don't think Canelo was fine at the end of the fight. He was fine. Both of them were. I think if you say who landed the most powerful shots, I would say Canelo probably landed the most thudding blows, but Crawford landed crisp, sharp, well-timed shots. And speed and timing creates power because it's the punches that you don't see that hurt you. So I think Canelo respected Crawford due to the fact that Crawford was just real sharp. It wasn't about power. It wasn't like Crawford was hitting him and it was just like it was he doesn't hit harder than Gennady Golovkin or Kovalev. They've hit Canelo clean and he was fine. So I don't think it was that. I think it's the sharpness of it. Those guys aren't as sharp as Crawford, so they can't hit you when they want to, but Crawford could. And I think that's really what it was. It was just the fact that he was stinging him up. It wasn't the power. It was the sharpness. Canelo did a terrible job of keeping his head off the line, and he didn't jab to set anything up. Really don't understand his game plan. Just rely on one punch. I just explained that though with the jab. You already know, like, if a lot of people say that they'll talk about punch output, right? And they'll be like, oh, this guy, like you'll fight certain guys, like when Floyd fought Shane Mosley, and Shane Mosley hurt him in the second round, and they were like, well, why didn't you finish him? You hurt him. Footwork. Floyd changed his angles after that round. So Floyd stopped. Number one, he stopped the Philly shell, so he stopped letting him walk him down. He put his hands out in front of him. That's number one. Number two, Floyd started fighting behind the jab and was really coming forward instead of moving backwards. So he was smothering all of Shane Mosley's work. And Shane Mosley doesn't have a power jab. He has a range finding jab that's just like a tap jab, right? So sometimes you'll see a guy punch output go down because a guy just closes distance or makes him fight from an angle where he can't really do what he normally wants to do because he can't fight at a certain range. And I think that's what happened tonight as well. I think that Crawford was fighting from a southpaw angle where every time he stepped outside of Canelo's elite foot, Canelo knew if I open up, I got one punch I can throw, which is this right hand. But Crawford. So if you're paying attention, if Crawford has his foot, so if a southpaw has his right foot outside your left foot, he has a two-way go, meaning his foot is outside your left, so he has leverage to throw his right and his left hand. Right, that's what they traditionally teach southpaws to do. Get their right lead foot outside of your foot, and then whoever has their lead foot outside the other usually has the advantage. If you don't have footwork to be able to negate that by going to your right as a conventional fighter, yeah, he has a two-way go in every exchange. You have one punch you can throw. And if you throw it and miss, you're going to get caught with something. And that's what you were seeing. So, yeah, he threw less punches, but it was because of footwork. It really was. It wasn't because he's old or he did something wrong. Sam Naked, I don't know this. They had AC Slater doing the pre-fight. I don't know why. That was kind of crazy, right? I did see that. Tim Bradley was spot on with how this fight would play out. Tim Bradley loves Bud, though, so I can't really listen to Tim Bradley too much. Bud is different. Yep. I didn't know Bud was older than Canelo. That's crazy. I didn't either, though. I really did. Hearns, Hagler, Leonard, Duran were great fights by great fighters, of course. Lewis, I appreciate you for admitting that because a lot of people don't see boxing from that point of view. Yeah, about the losses, I think that's what you're talking about. He said, "Did you feel like Floyd was ever handed a win he didn't deserve? If so, what fight?" I got a couple of those. I really do bang with Floyd though because people forget who Floyd is. That's what they do. They don't watch Floyd for real. They watch Floyd when he was Money Mayweather, and they think, "Oh, this is Floyd." That's old Floyd. Floyd was fighting like Bernard Hopkins when he's old. I mean, like not the same style, but he's fighting guys that were stronger, faster, and he was just beating them with wisdom and skill and his experience, his Okoye, right? But Young Floyd was whooping ass. Like when he fought Diego Corrales, that was the sharpest he's ever been. When he fought Arturo Gotti, he fought Sharmba Mitchell. When he fought Demarcus Chop Chop Crowley was giving it to Floyd. I gained all the respect in the world for him in that fight because Floyd had struggled against southpaws, which he always did. I think Zab gave him work too, but Floyd struggled against southpaws. And I'm going to get to the Zab fight in a second. But Demarcus Chop Chop Crowley gave it to him. Emmanuel Augustus, the drunken master, gave it to him. He bust his nose up, but he won those fights with his heart because he had to fight, and Floyd can fight when he has to. And those guys actually, in his early career, like Jose Luis Castillo, I think he won the first fight because Floyd broke his hand. I would give him that. Floyd knew that too. That's why he fought him again. But Floyd broke his hand in that fight. He broke his left hand, so he's fighting him as a southpaw. Floyd switched southpaw in that fight for the first time, I think, ever. He fought as a southpaw for rounds in that fight because he broke his left hand. And then he came back in the next fight and beat him emphatically because everybody said, "Oh, you can't beat this guy." But he could beat him. He just broke his hand. He beat him with one hand the first time, so respect to you for that. Now, to the Zab fight, though, and I know we're talking about Crawford. We'll get back to Crawford, but I'm answering your question. Zab knocked Floyd down, right? And I don't remember what the scorecard was, but Zab knocked Floyd down for real. He just didn't count, but it should have counted as a knockdown. And I think he lost a point for something. Had he not lost a point and he got credit for his knockdown, I think Zab either wins that fight or fights to a draw in that fight. Yeah. So because Zab was winning the first 4 rounds because Zab was just too fast for Floyd initially. And then Floyd got his timing down and started, working his way back into that fight. But I think if you count the knockdown in the first 4 rounds, Zab's up 5 rounds to none by the end of the 4th round. Get what I'm saying? So that fight, let's just say Zab won 2 of the rounds in the later rounds. After that, he wins that fight. Get what I'm saying? So I would say Zab's fight. You could say you can make an argument for that fight. I think Cotto fought him very well, but he beat Cotto. Yeah. Floyd has fought some good fights. I think those fights, though, the ones I named, are the ones that I saw him in the most trouble. I wouldn't say any of those guys beat him emphatically, but he was in trouble in those fights, a lot of trouble. And that's where those are the fights I gave him his respect for, though, because those weren't easy to win. Let's see who asked that question, so I can get to the next one. He said, "I appreciate it." Oh yeah, that was Lewis. Okay, so Spence said, "When fighting taller, I believe in pumping the jab to the chest and the torso. Try to freeze your man in place. That's how we did it in the old days." Yeah, that's what Tyson's job. Tyson used to throw a jab, but again, to throw a jab at a taller guy, right? You already know you got to be traveling. You ain't if you're throwing a jab and you got stationary feet at a taller guy, you're asking to get hit. You got to be traveling. So Tyson could do it because he has explosive legs and he had good head movement. So Tyson would throw his jab, but instead of throwing his jab here where he's standing still, he's throwing his jab. He's throwing his head off center. He's throwing his jab with good head movement and zigzagging coming in. And the way he trained, you saw how he would train with Kevin Rooney, where he's coming forward like this. His head's just moving, coming forward. So he's trying to get you to jab anyway. So he would jab, but Tyson wasn't trying to out jab you. He was jabbing to get you to start something back at him so he can do something to you. So some guys jab for that. And yeah, you can jab at a guy's chest, you can jab at his body, but you better be traveling. If you stand in front of a guy that's taller and you jab and you don't have any length and you don't travel, you're gonna get cracked. That's the end. And Canelo don't have the ability to. He don't got explosive legs. He got to walk to you. He fights like exactly like. And everybody thinks he's a Mexican style. Canelo don't got a Mexican style. Canelo fights like Dwight Cowie. Watch the Camden Buzzsaw, Dwight Cowie versus Holyfield. Watch Dwight Cowie versus Foreman. He's a guy that's 5'7", really should have only been a light heavyweight. Went all the way up to cruiser and heavyweight. But his style was like Canelo's. He Short, compact guy with no neck, great defense. He fought Spinks. He fought everybody he fought, he gave a run for their money or he beat him. You know what I'm saying? But him and Holyfield have some legendary fights, man. But Dwight Cowie is and it's spelled Qawi is his last name. Look him up, and you'll anybody who loves boxing, look him up. You'll thank me for it for sure. But Dwight Cowie is what Canelo's style resembles the most to me, and that's a black guy who learned how to fight in prison. But Canelo fights just like that. Dwight Cowie ain't got a well, he had a good jab though. But and to your point, Spence, Dwight Cowie was a 5'7" guy that fought guys 6'4", 6'5", all that, and he was out jabbing guys, but his jab was a well-timed jab, and he could travel a little bit, but he had a good timing with his jab. So his jab was a disruptor, where he would wait for you to engage. You couldn't touch him, so he would get within your range by walking you down, and then he would start jabbing once he's close to you. So him and Holyfield had a great fight. I just loved his style. I loved his style. Bruce Banner, he said, Akoye dropping some gems. Spence said, surprisingly, there was only one head clash. Yeah, that was a surprise. Iceberg Q, he said, what about Marcos Maidana? Marcos Maidana, my man. I love Marcos Maidana. Oh, Marcos Maidana knocked Floyd 2 out, I think. I did like Marcos Maidana fight versus Floyd too. You're right. That was difficult. Muhammad Qawi was a great cruiserweight. Yeah. I like Qawi. Let's see what else we got going on in here, man. Now, y'all pretty much done with y'all questions because it's probably like 3 o'clock in the morning. What time is it? Oh, damn, it is 3:15 a.m. That's crazy. This fight got me juiced up, though. I got my adrenaline rushing, man. Let's see. They said who I got? Boots. Who asked me that? Unbiased Cowboy. He said, who you got, Akoye, Boots or Crawford? I think I talked about that earlier, but you guys know what it is. Let's shift because I know you guys were talking about the Giants earlier. I will let you know this. The watch party tomorrow. I don't think I'm going to do the watch party tomorrow because I'm up doing this. So I'll just watch the game, but I don't want to watch it with y'all. I'll do something a little later or Monday after I watch the all 22 film. I'll break that down for y'all because I am tired. I've been up since I almost didn't make this, Chris, because I said I can't miss the first show, but I almost didn't make it because I almost fell asleep on the undercards. But nonetheless, I'm here, man. We've been on for an hour. Unless you guys have other questions, I'm going to go through another quick little synopsis of what happened because a lot of you guys might have not been on here earlier. But basically, what we just watched tonight, just in closing or in summary, is greatness in motion, man. Crawford went out and did, in my opinion, what nobody thought he could do and nobody thought he should have been able to do at that weight class, man, which is take the fight to the bigger man, stand toe to toe, take his punishment, not run, take his punishment and emphatically win the fight. He won that fight more emphatically than Floyd won the fight against him. Montana 808, he said 115, 113 was atrocious. I don't think so. I don't think it was atrocious. Like I said, I had it 7-5. Truly, I wasn't joking about it. Now you could argue that 2 rounds, those 2 rounds that you gave him that I gave him in the early rounds that you gave those to Crawford, cool. But those early rounds, Crawford didn't start dominating until after the 5th. They were kind of even, Steven. So if you just said, let's just say for the lack of, argument or for the sake of argument, by the end of 5, it was 3-2, right? That's not a horrible idea, right? It was 3-2 at the end of 5, and he wins, 2 more rounds, 3 more rounds. That's I would give Canelo that. Plus, you also know that they're not grading or scoring the same way you are. You're scoring based off of you might be scoring based off of who threw the most punches or who seems like they landed the most punches. Whereas judges might be scoring off of ring generalship, like who's controlling the pace, or they're counting body shots, they're counting pain. Some judges go for pain, meaning like you might land 5 more punches than I landed this round, but they didn't mean anything. But I landed a punch that changed your life in this round. You know what I'm saying? I might still win that round to that judge. The other judge might have been grading off of activity, right? So you really don't know. But I'm not pissed off by any of the scores because I thought that it was a competitive fight the entire fight. It wasn't like Canelo wasn't fighting. You know what I mean? He won some rounds. But You could argue about how many. I won't. I mean, some people say 9-3. You know what I mean? I won't argue that. 8-4, 7-5. I'm in there somewhere. You got me ready to put some road work and start training again. Hey man, I'm in the gym right now, so you already know. The show is done in the gym. So let's go, man. I know I started, like I had to start training again because this is the way I look at boxing, man. And I'll say this too. It's late as shit. Excuse my French. But I'll say this too. Um, the way I look at boxing is this, man. And the what is wrong with boxing is this. Boxing is a martial art. People treat it like a sport. I watch my sons do jujitsu and they treat it like a martial art, not a sport, meaning it's a way of life. Old guys that are training in jujitsu, like Joe Rogan and Eddie Bravo and those guys, they treat it like a martial art. You never saw a out of shape. You wouldn't even go to a karate instructor that couldn't do karate, right? You wouldn't go to a jujitsu instructor that couldn't do jujitsu no more because he's out of shape because he's not competing, right? You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't go to a Wing Chun practitioner who can't do Wing Chun no more, right? But in boxing, you'll be sitting in the gym with a guy who either never boxed, that's just a dog fighter. He is a dog trainer, in my opinion. If you never boxed at all, not like I've never been a pro boxer, so and I'm a trainer. Emmanuel Stewart never been a pro, and he was one of the best. So I don't mean that. I mean you never boxed. I mean you ain't even spar. You never got in the ring. You never trained. If you can't do any of the things you telling the fighters to do, you'll see that in gyms. I'm like, that's amazing. How does this happen? Right? That's because they treat boxing like a sport. You think that sports scientists can teach you how to box, and they can't. Boxing is a martial art. It's a way of life. So I want to get back to that. That's why I was saying, Spence, I want to get back to the way it used to be, where your hands should be trained in a certain way. Where if you land punches as a boxer, if a guy is in front of you and you land, you should break everything in him. We don't get guys that even can punch on that foreman level or on that level anymore because they're not training to do it. They train to be fast. They train to score points, but they're not training their real body as if it's a martial art. Meaning, you should be training your hands to be able to withstand punishment without gloves because it's a martial art. You know what I mean? So that's just how I feel about boxing, man. So I'm definitely back in the sport, and I'm definitely training. Like I do everything I have my fighters do. You watch that. You guys can watch that on Instagram if you guys want to watch. Go to Akoye Media on Instagram, and you can see a lot of the training that we do, the stuff that I will put on film. Eddie said, it's late. Take care, brother. I'll catch you next time. Yeah, and I'm on the same page with y'all. But as I said, I wanted to, give you a fair shake on this one. I didn't want to cut it short because it's late, because this is the first episode. But I appreciate everybody for tuning in thus far. And remember, like, we're going to be doing this every Tuesday and Friday, I believe. And it'll be 2 days a week for sure. But every Tuesday and Friday for right now, we'll be on. And I'll start announcing and let you guys know when. But boxing is, if you guys love football content, you'll love boxing content, because boxing is my first love. Football was my brother's first love. Rest in peace, DJ. And I played football my whole life, but that was his thing. I just understand it because my whole family played ball. I love football, but boxing is my first love for sure. But definitely. You said exactly. Don't wear lotion on your hands. Yeah, you got to punch trees and don't wear lotion on your hands. I punch trees. I'll show you what we do. I'll show you what I'm talking. We call it tree talking. You punch the trees and you get the leaves to shake. And you don't try to hit it so hard that you're hurting your hand, but you punch it well enough to just shift your power through the tree so that the tree shakes. And as you start doing that, you build up calluses and you build up bone density doing that. And it makes it so that you can punch extremely hard, and you're not scared to punch because you got good wrist stability. But you know what it is, man. But y'all have a good night, man. I'm out of here. And yeah, like Spence said, don't wear no lotion on your hands if you want to punch the skin off somebody's face. Shout out to Crawford and his team for doing what they did tonight. Shout out to Canelo for competing and for giving him the opportunity in the first place, because he didn't have to do that. But him doing that created a chance for us to see greatness, and that's what we got. So I'm excited and I'm happy, man. But thank all of y'all, man, for tuning in for the first episode of Akoye Knows Boxing. And you already know we're gonna be on it. So talk to y'all soon. I'm out.